Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. Today we are going to look at Ansible. It's a configuration management tool. My name is Ganesh Palnetkar, and today we'll understand Ansible and some of the basics about how to set up an Ansible server and how to get it going. So let's get started. So what are we going to look at? We will first of all understand what is Ansible. We'll be looking at how to install Ansible, and then how to write Ansible playbooks and using some of the Ansible basic commands. We'll also look at configuration, how to use Ansible as a configuration management tool. Now, we'll also understand what exactly do I mean by a configuration management tool, and we'll take it further from there. So let's understand what is Ansible. Now, if I want to simply put it, Ansible is an automation engine. I can virtually use Ansible for multiple uh, tasks. I can virtually automate any type of task that I can think as part of an operations team responsibilities, and that includes system administration management, uh, deployment of applications, deployment of patches, provisioning of environments, provisioning of servers, uh, and it can be a local environment, it can be a local infrastructure, or it can be a cloud infrastructure as well. So virtually I can think of any such task as part of operations team's responsibility, and Ansible can help you to automate that task. So it's a wonder. Basically it's an agentless operation. Now what do I mean by agentless operation? If I want to compare Ansible with other type of tools like Puppet, CF Engine, or uh, Chef. These are kind of tools which are going to use agents or client application which has to be installed on the node side. Now, what is node? Node is something that I want to manage. So if I want to have a package deployed on a server, here server is my node. Okay. So in case of Chef or Puppet or other tools, I have to install a client application, an agent on the node side. Now that's kind of an overhead for me. But in case of Ansible, I don't have to have any kind of a separate application which is my agent or my client application. So it's an agentless operation, and that makes Ansible very handy and very easy to use tool. It reduces a lot of overhead in this case. Ansible is written in Python. So basically, all these different tools like Chef, Puppet, Ansible, Chef and Puppet is basically written in Ruby and a few other additional, patches as such written in C probably. Whereas Ansible is written in Python. So uh, Ansible makes use of Python modules that are called as Ansible modules, and these modules are something which are written for a specific purpose, for uh, completing or executing a task. Now, as we discussed earlier, Ansible can be used for deployment purpose or provisioning purpose as such. Now, all these different tasks like provisioning or deployment and so on, to carry out these tasks, Ansible is equipped with pre-written programs. These programs are written in Python, and these are called as Ansible modules. Now, if we look at how many such modules are available in Ansible library, there are literally 2000 plus different modules which are preloaded. You can think of even writing your own module as well, and that's kind of a customized module that you can write and upload to your Ansible control server. Okay, so uh, there's a lot of flexibility in managing and executing the task as well. How do I manage all these nodes that I want to uh, deploy with or install with. So when I'm thinking about Ansible as a tool, I have to have few mandatory tools and a few mandatory files as such. These are inventory files, the Ansible configuration file, and some other files and folders as well. So basically, Ansible inventory file and Ansible configuration file, these are the mandatory files that are needed. Ansible inventory file is something which is a simple list of all the nodes that I want to manage. So if I have, let's say, 10 different machines that I want to manage, and these 10 machines are, combination of some of the machines running on a cloud environment, let's say AWS or Google or Azure, or maybe some of the virtual machines that I have created on my local environment. If I want to manage those, if I want to change the configuration of these machines, I have to first of all list out all these machines that I want to manage, and that listing is done and is maintained in a file, and that file is called as an inventory file. Now there can be basically static and inventory file, these two types. Static is something that is maintained manually, and whereas a dynamic inventory is something that is going to be managed automatically by some script or some code. Now you can write your own code, say let's say a script or a shell script or PowerShell script, or maybe a program written in Python or something like that, which can fetch the information of all the machines nodes that you want to manage and can have a list maintained. So that is something I can manage or maintain dynamically. So basically there are two type of inventory files that are seen in the environment or maintained in the environment, usually in the Ansible control server, which are which can be a static inventory or a dynamic inventory. Now let's quickly look at Ansible architecture. Ansible architecture, if I want to put it in a very simple way, there are these building blocks in an Ansible control server and the Ansible control environment. So in this diagram, Ansible automation engine is something that is running on your control server. So a machine or a server where I have installed Ansible is my Ansible automation engine or Ansible control server, which is usually called as. Whereas on the right hand side, host, which are Windows, Unix, and Mac OS, these are the nodes or these are the targeted machines that I want to manage. Now it can be any operating system of my choice. It can be a network device as well. It can be a router, it can be a switch, or it can be a firewall as well. So basically, any such machine that can be connected over a network and with certain requirements, like these hosts or these nodes should have Python running or Python installed on these machines. So there has to be a Python interpreter, a particular version of Python interpreter installed on the host side, as well as there should be a network connection between the Ansible control server and the host. How do I connect from the Ansible control server to the host? I can be connecting over SSH, or I can be connecting, if it is a Windows machine, I can be connecting over WinRM protocol. So these are basically the two protocols that I can use for connecting from my Ansible server to the hosts. Now on the control server side, on the Ansible automation engine side, you have some of more building blocks shown in here, which states as inventory, then you have modules, APIs, and plugins. Now these are some of the mandatory components inside the Ansible control server. Modules is something that we just discussed. It's a pre-written program written usually in Python for a specific task, to execute a particular task. Inventory is a list of machines that I want to manage. So all the hosts on the right hand side, Windows, Unix, Mac OS, and so on, should have an entry of its name as a host name, or can be a FQDN, or can be a IP address of any of these machines. And that should be listed in a simple text file, which is going to be called as an inventory file. The way the inventory files are maintained, there is a separate discussion that we'll be going through. Uh, there's a way you can manage this inventory file and make it more manageable. So we'll discuss anyways on that as well. Along with that, you see APIs and plugins. APIs is something that you will always make use of internally. So you won't be directly making use of APIs through the user side, but Ansible makes use of these APIs and plugins while connecting to the remote applications running on the Windows, Unix, or Mac OS, or any of the hosts. So if I want to manage a particular an application running on the remote host, and if that host is on, let's say, AWS, on a Amazon Web Services environment, so in order to manage that, I have to have a particular plugin and APIs in order to Ansible connect and manage these devices or these tools. So, and APIs and plugins are the components which are going to be used internally by Ansible, and will be able to connect to and manage these tools and devices on the host side. So it's just kind of a very high level overview that I have given in here. Let's proceed. Something that I have discussed and just quickly talked about in the earlier slide. How do I manage, or how do I use Ansible to connect over to the targeted machines? So I can use SSH for communicating from my Ansible server onto the remote device. If any of such device which does not support or natively support SSH, like Windows, I have to use a different protocol. Now, typically, if I want to use Ansible to manage a Windows machine, I'll be using a Windows remote management protocol, which is WinRM. Also, as I said, the targeted nodes should be running a particular version of Python. Ansible can be used in two basically modes. We can use an ad hoc mode. It in the ad hoc mode. So in ad hoc mode, you are going to write simple commands, and by using the commands and by calling a module, a Python module or a Ansible module, you can implement a task. You can execute your tasks for automation. You can have all these different commands and set of commands written inside a script to have all number of tasks executed one by one, and that script will then be called as a playbook. So basically, there are two ways to do it. If I have a quick task to be completed, and maybe something which may not be repeating every now and then, and if I want to quickly get that done on the remote side, I can use an ad hoc Ansible in the ad hoc mode or ad hoc commands. If something that I want to run on a repetitive basis, I can write a playbook for executing all these tasks, and that playbook or that script is going to be called as playbook, and this is written in a YAML format. As I said, Ansible has built-in modules, so it's a library of all the different modules that are available, and with every release of Ansible, there'll be new modules added to the library. So you will definitely see a lot of new things getting added for every release. And of course, as I said, you can have your own customized module built as well, and you can add that to your own library of modules. Of course, for that, you need to have understanding about writing a Python program to automate or to carry out a certain task. This is something which will help you to understand installation of Ansible server. Now, Ansible is, as I said, is a Python application. So Ansible as a package is available on multiple locations, multiple repositories, Ansible as a package is also available on Python repository, Python public repository on cloud. It is also available on Ansible's um, own repository, and you can download it from there. It is available on Yum repository as well as on uh, in your Ubuntu repositories as well. One thing we need to understand, and which is very important, is Ansible server or the Ansible control server can only be installed on a Linux machine. So this has to be a Linux machine. It can be any flavor of Linux. It can be a Ubuntu machine, or it can be a Red Hat, or it can be a CentOS or Fedora, and so on. But it has to be a Linux machine, and it cannot be anything other than that. But on the other side, the nodes that I want to manage, it can be of any operating system. It can, of course, be a network device like a router or switch as well. So there's a lot of flexibility in that sense. This is something that is needed for working with Windows. So if I want to work with Windows and manage a Windows terminal or a machine, there has to be few Python modules and functions that I need to install and prepare my Ansible server accordingly. Ansible Lab, how do I have Ansible Lab or my Ansible server worked in different scenarios? So one typical scenario that I see, as I discussed earlier, if I want to get a work done or task done quickly as early as possible, and if it is not going to be repeated every now and then, I will be using Ansible in a ad hoc mode. In that case, what I need is an inventory file and the set of Ansible modules, which are going to be called inside the ad hoc commands. Scenario 2 discusses about having an inventory file and then setting up an environment inside the Ansible control server. Now, this Ansible environment or the control environment is going to have a playbook and some of other important factors of building and control environment as such. There's a lot of things that we will be anyways looking into the next sessions and the subsequent sessions as such. But these are the possible scenarios that you can think through. So let's jump on to the Ansible server that I have with me. So what I have done is I have these two terminals available with me. These are basically the Vagrant terminals that I have built. And so these are the virtual machines basically that I have with me on my local machine itself. Now these machines need not be necessarily on your local environment, on your local machine, or need not be a virtual machine itself. It can be a physical machine. It can be a cloud instance on AWS or wherever that you think of. Where you want to install Ansible server has to be a Linux machine. Okay, so I have a Linux machine in here, and that's basically been built using Vagrant and VirtualBox. And I have installed Ansible server or Ansible on this. Now there is a way or some simple steps that I can use to get Ansible installed. But once I have Ansible installed, I'll be having all the configuration defined inside etc Ansible folder. So whenever you get Ansible installed, you will have a directory created inside etc folder, and inside in there you will see an Ansible folder. Now this is a default folder that gets created automatically every time when you install Ansible through a particular way. What I have inside this, I have an Ansible CFG file, then I have a host file, and then I have a roles folder. Now this hosts and Ansible CFG, these are the mandatory files that you will always need. So in our discussion here, we were talking about inventory file. So inventory file is the one which is named as the host, or the name of the file here is hosts. Now, the name of the file can be anything. I can have this file named as, instead of naming that as host, I can name that as ABC, XYZ, or anything that are my choice. Of course, I need to make sure and configure that inside my Ansible CFG file, mentioning which inventory file that I'll have to refer as a default inventory file. I can have multiple inventory files in here as well. Okay, so but the default one that I'll be using will always be stated inside the Ansible CFG file. So this is a simple environment that gets created automatically when you install Ansible. Now, it is not necessary that you need to build all your code or write your playbooks inside this etc Ansible location itself. You can of course get that outside on your inside your home user home directory as well, and that's what I have done in my case. So let me get back to my users home directory, and in here if I list out, I have some of the folders created as Ansible, Ansible training, and provision EC2, and so on. So we'll anyways get into all these different folders, but first of all let me take you to the Ansible folder, which is where we will be understanding and looking for some additional information. If I list out the files and folders inside this Ansible folder, you will see one more additional Ansible CFG file, a host file, and some of other more folders and files as well. Now, this is something that we have already noticed and was already present inside etc Ansible. So the host file and the etc CFG file, I have actually copied it from the etc Ansible folder itself. It need not be that way, but it's easier for me to get started. You can create your own file. You can write all the details inside your Ansible CFG file manually as well. And you can, of course, create a separate file, which you can name it anyways and call that as your inventory file. So there is, again, there's a lot of flexibility how you want to manage and maintain your Ansible, uh, management or control server and the code where you are going to write. If I want to quickly get inside the Ansible CFG file and talk about how the things are managed, we'll see that first. So I'm currently inside the Ansible CFG file, and this is a mandatory file that you need to have. Now in here, my host file location has been changed. The default one you will see in here is going to be /etc /ansible and /hosts. But I'm not referring to the default location of host file, and I actually have created a host file inside my user's home. So I have mentioned that my inventory file is not the one which is inside etc Ansible, but it is inside the home vagrant Ansible folder. Okay, so rest of all the settings I haven't changed anyways, and these are the defaults. What do I mean by that? It's also stated in here with a tag created, and that tag name is defaults, and it states that all these key value pairs like library or module utils or remote temp and so on. There are literally hundreds of all this different settings that you will find inside this Ansible CFG file, and a certain value against that as well. Now, these are some of the defaults that you will see. So the Ansible library of modules is always going to be referred into this location. So when you install your Ansible control server on a machine of your choice, a library is going to be created, a library of modules is going to be created, and the location is going to be in the user share and USR share and my modules folder. Module utils is also going to be inside my module utils folder. The remote temp, local temp folder is going to be the one which is inside the Ansible .ansible folder, which is going to be a hidden folder, so to say. So what I want to mention in here is these are some of the defaults that you will see. If I want to just scroll down in here, you will see a lot of other information and settings as well. And Many of these are very important and critical ones as well. We will be anyways looking into most of these settings later whenever we are going to make use of a particular module or a feature inside Ansible. And that time we will be getting back to the Ansible COG file, and we might have to make some changes to these settings as well. So for now, let me quickly take you down all the way to the end of the file. Here you see there is a tag created as colors, and it talks about what are different colors that should be highlighted. So the text that we are going to see, that text should be highlighted in a particular color under certain conditions. So uh, if a highlighted text is going to be shown, it's going to be written in white color. If there's an error, it will be always marked with red color. If it is kind of okay or successful implementation, it will be displayed in green color and so on. So there are a lot of different flags that are set and related color uh, detailing and description for the particular status of the flags. So for now, let's get out of this. Let me clear the screen. If I want to see how my inventory file is used, I'm going to open the inventory file in here. So this is my inventory file. And as I mentioned earlier, an inventory file is something which is needed for listing of all the targeted machines or nodes that you want to manage. Now in here, this 192.168.50.131 is a IP address of the virtual machine that I want to manage basically. Now it need not be always defined as an IP address of the targeted machine. You can write that as an domain name or a host name or a fully qualified domain name as well. So anyways that you want to connect or define the identification of the targeted machine, you can define that inside your inventory file. The only care that you need to take is if you have defined FQDN or an hostname, that FQDN or hostname should be resolvable over the network from the Ansible server. So if I want to connect to a particular machine, which has been defined, let's say as green.example.com, this domain name should be resolved over network while connecting from the Ansible server to that machine. So otherwise you won't be able to connect to that targeted machine. Okay, so it makes sense. Now, what are different ways that we can define or manage an inventory file? So defining names or the IP address or host name of a machine, you can define that on one single line as well. So each machine identification has to be done on a separate line. Here 192.168.50.131 is a machine, local host is a second machine, and it has to be defined on a separate and next line. If you want to group multiple machines together, if you have, let's say, 5 virtual machines running on AWS and 5 more machines running on Google Cloud. So the way you want to manage and deploy certain things on these machines might change depending on the cloud or the infrastructure it is running on. Now in that case, it is easier for me to group those 5 machines which are running on Google and other 5 machines which are running on AWS. So how do I do that? In order to create a group, I will have to write the group name in square brackets. So whatever that has been written inside square brackets is the name of the group. So here what I have written, how I have created a group, how I have defined a group is by opening in a square bracket. I have written app server inside that, and app server becomes my group name. Now, who are going to be the members of the app server group? Anything or any host name or any machine name that has been written under the group name is going to be the members. So here when I have written 192.168.51.31 as an IP address under the app server, this machine 192.168.51.31 becomes the member of the app server. Same way, the local host is also a member of the app server group. You can create group of groups as well. Okay, you can create multiple groups with identification or uniqueness or commonalities as such. Uh, if you want to group all the web servers together, you can create a group, name that as of anything of your choice, and have all the host names or IP addresses of these web servers written below the declaration of that group. Same way you can do it for uh, any other purpose. Let's say, grouping all the database servers together, grouping all app servers together, or grouping, let's say, all Windows machine together, and so on. So you can think of any permutation and combination of creating the groups. Basically, groups are created for making the usage or while we are going to run our commands to make it easier for us to run a particular task on group of machines at a time. For that matter, we will have to create groups. You will get to know more about that when we actually use these group names inside our ad hoc commands. Okay, so for the time being, I'm going to quit from this file. Let me clear from here. I'm currently inside my Ansible code folder. So this is where my all files are here. Now let's understand how we are going to write a ad hoc command. So anytime when you are going to start writing or running an ad hoc command, the statement of ad hoc command starts with the keyword as Ansible, and then it follows with certain uh, you know inputs related to where you want to deploy a certain task, what type of task or what type of task that you want to run, and which module you are going to use for running that task, what are going to be the arguments supplied to that module, and so on. So a typical way that we are going to write, let me just take this here. Okay, so as I said, it's always going to start with an Ansible word. It is going to follow with the target group name or the machine name. Let's say here we are going to run it or execute it on the app server group. So here I'm going to say the group name, and if I am going to execute anything on the app server group, set of tasks will then be executed on all the members of the app server group. I'll have to suffix that and supply that with the inventory file information. So which inventory file should Ansible use for having a lookup for this app server group name? Now, let me write the entire command and then we'll get to know each and every aspect of this command. After having -i host written, then I'll be having -m, and here I'll be specifying which module that I want to run. Let's say I want to run a setup module. Now setup is a keyword of the module, as I said, and every Ansible control server is going to have a library of modules, and setup is one of the modules that has been pre uh, installed and available inside the library. If I want to have some argument passed to this setup module, a module is something which is kind of a plugin or which is a simple program. And to that program, if I want to pass some arguments, I can pass that by having -a, and then I can encapsulate or have all the arguments written inside these two double quotes. So if my uh, argument is filter, let's say is equal to Ansible underscore OS underscore family. So you don't need to worry about what these what this is about. Uh, just try to understand filter is equal to Ansible OS family is kind of an argument or an information that I am passing to the setup module. Now let's understand all these aspects inside this, or all the factors inside this command. As I said, it's always going to start with an Ansible keyword followed with the group name or the targeted machine name. Now, how does Ansible understand what app server is? Is it a group or is it a host name? And for that, I'm saying have a lookup into the host inventory file. And this is where Ansible will find out app server is a group and not a host name. Now, we got to know where that we want to run a particular task, but what type of task, and that is going to be defined as by the usage or by declaring your module. So here module is going to be defined first of all by -m and then followed with the module name. Any argument that this module is going to be expecting is going to be supplied with the -a flag and then followed with the actual argument that we want to pass. Now, if I want to follow this, and if this particular command is going to need certain root privileges or admin privileges, I'll have to supply that with a keyword as become as well. Now, we'll anyways see this later. So this is a simple command and a typical command that you will always see. Now, if I run this, I'm not sure whether this will run because uh, I haven't checked whether the app server or the 192.168.50.131 server or the virtual machine is currently running or not. If it is, then I should be able to connect to that. And yes, surprise is my 5131 machine is currently running. Okay, so this is a simple way I can write and run a ad hoc command. Now I can go on running all these different kind of modules. Now the only care and important thing that we need to note in here is in this ad hoc command you cannot have more than one module called at a time. So here the module that we have called is a setup module. If I want to have few more tasks executed, a task say to install a package or start or stopping of a service on the remote machine, related module has to be called. And now I can have all these modules called in here. So instead of saying setup, if I say service, then I'll have to supply that with an argument, which is like, what is the service name that I want to manage? So it can be HTTPD, and what is the status of the module, so the service that I want to achieve. So if I want to have that as let's say running, and I'll have to supply that with the become parameter as well. Now, if I run this, I should be expecting something in return, which will let me know what is the status or what is the uh, implementation outcome on the other machine. Okay, something that I have got in written about failure. Now we'll get to this a bit later why this has failed, but now here you will come to know these are the ways you will be writing an ad hoc command, and you'll be supplying the modules and supplying the arguments to those modules. Likewise, you can think of any such task that you want to implement, and you can make use of these different modules. Let's clear the screen for now. We'll take a break here, and we'll join in our next session and look into few more ad hoc commands, few more uh, modules that we can make use of, and later we will take it ahead with creating a playbook and running a playbook on the targeted machines. So thanks for joining. Uh, let's catch up in the next session. Thank you.